Hi students, this time we are talking about uniform circular motion. Remember, the first thing which is from the very basics of kinematics, as we know, a body or an object is said to be particle if it fulfills the required unique considerations. You may get confused, so I am clearing you this thing. Particle is assumed to be a mass without any dimensions. No doubt, theoretically, it cannot be possible, but practically, it has meanings like if during the motion size of the particle, size of the object is negligible in comparison to range of motion, then we consider that object to be particle. The second practical condition, which may be explained in some other manner, like if a car is moving on a straight track, then its motion is similar to the motion of a particle. Why it is so? Because particle is theoretically a pinpointed object which do not occupy any space. Means it must have unique value of velocity, acceleration or displacements. So, if a body moves in the manner such that all of its parts have the same velocities, same accelerations and all cover equal displacements during the motion of the object, then such body under these conditions can also be treated like a particle. Here we are going to study motion of the particle along a circular track. Means body goes round and round and round again in circular path. So we can say it is the round motion of a particle. See, here we are taking the elements of circular motion. There are some particular definitions and explanations of the various terms which will be performed during this course of motion. Say a particle is initially at this place. Let us draw it as a circle, red circle. Here, say this particle is revolving in this circular path with velocity v. Say this is the center of the circle and this straight line connecting particle with the center, it is called radius of the circle. Say it is r. During passage of some time, this particle reaches, say, somewhere here. Now, if we draw the new line connecting center with the particle, then this will be the line. If this is circle, then obviously this is also radius. Now we can analyze this motion first, say in terms of the angle. Say this angle is theta. Theta here gives angular displacement of particle from reaching A to B. Here this is the distance traveled by this particle. In mathematics, we call it the path length as arc of circle. This r is considered as radius and this theta is angular displacement. This is center C. So as the kinematics of this circular motion, we must know what is this angular displacement and what is the rate with which it is changing its angular position. We can say that it is angular velocity. If we talk about the varying angular velocity, then there may be an acceleration which is called angular acceleration. Say, take the details from this figure and write down what are the elements of the circular motion. So first of all, I am taking this term angle, or we may call it angular displacement. It is represented as symbol theta, and which is mathematically equal to the arc length divided by radius. This term theta is called angular displacement. If this distance traveled or arc length is s, say, then we can write this term as theta is equal to s. It is very important to know that this angular displacement theta is vector or scalar. So please remember to know this fact that it is the only quantity in physics which can be vector or scalar. It is the only quantity which shows vector nature as well as scalar nature under different ranges. What is the meaning of different ranges here? So remember, vector, this angular displacement is vector if it is small quantity. It is scalar if it is large quantity. So what is the meaning of small and large. The small means it is somewhere under 10 degree. Large if it is 20, 30, 40, 60, 90 degrees. So this angular displacement may be vector if small and will behave like a scalar if large. We can take a very interesting example to understand this fact. See, there is an arrow. This arrow is presently in the plane of this board and is pointing vertically upward. If I take two angular displacements, one theta 1 90 degree in this direction, so this becomes in this shape. Now after this theta 1, another displacement theta 2, which is also 90 degree, is given. This displacement in this direction, so this pointing arrow now comes in this shape. So after performing theta 1 plus theta 2, we got this result. In the other case, what we will do, we will perform theta 2, which is 90 degree first. So we just give theta 2 displacement first time, due to which it bends in this direction. Now it's this faces in this direction. So after revolving it with angle theta 2, which is 90 degree in anti-clockwise sense about the vertical axis, this arrow now becomes this way. Now if we perform the first angle theta 1, which is also 90 degree, but in this sense, which is upside horizontal displacement, then this arrow just becomes flat and reaches. Here the result comes. The orientation of this arrow now becomes parallel to the line which is passing here, blue color line, while in the previous case the orientation of the result is in somewhere perpendicular to the whiteboard towards me direction. So you can see, if angular displacement is of the order of 90 degree or 60 degree or 45 degree, means a large value, then the sum of two angular displacements is not commutative. Means here theta 1 plus theta 2 coming from this and theta 2 plus theta 1 coming from this are not equal. So we can say in this process, as theta 1 plus theta 2 is not equal to theta 2 plus theta 1, so it does not follow commutative law of vector addition, means it cannot be vector, so we will treat this angular displacement under these conditions to be scalar. If we take small angles, say 2, 4, 5 degrees, then the result comes almost same. You can perform this. So for small angles, this relation holds true, that theta 1 plus theta 2 is equal to theta 2 plus theta 1. So if angular displacement is small, then it can be treated as vector quantities. That's why I have called this quantity to be vector or scalar. This quantity has both type of properties for different value ranges. Just consider the same example. Just I am going to show you here how that quantity under small values becomes a vector. Here we are giving displacements. The first displacement is theta 1, a very small angle. After that, this is rotated about this axis by again a small angle theta 2. The result can be seen here. Now, if we consider first theta 2, then it becomes just, it was in this position, now it becomes this. This is the displacement here. You can see this arrow is this one, say this is arrow. Then we have given a small displacement in this direction, right? This is theta 2. Now, if we talk about theta 1, then now just tilt it this way. Now this arrow becomes like this. So this is the first displacement theta 1. Here we can see that the result theta 1 plus theta 2 is this one, and result of theta 2 plus theta 1, it becomes like this. And we can say here that both the results are same. So here commutative law of the vector addition has been followed by this arrow. So here the angular displacements taken to be very small are vector as per their properties. I can show you this result with the help of this remote control. First of all, this is the position of this arrow. Now, we give first displacement to be downward by a very small amount. Now, from this condition, we give some displacement in this way. Now, the final position of this remote control now comes this way. Just see, I am performing the same event again. Here, the first displacement which comes here is theta 1, and the second displacement is given as theta 2. So the result of these two operations comes like this. It's okay? Now, if we perform the displacement theta 2 first, then this displacement gives us this way, theta 2 this way. So we have performed it. Now it becomes the result of theta 2. If we perform theta 1, then tilt just it a little bit and you got the same result as we have got in theta 1 plus theta 2. So, angular displacement under this condition is vector quantity, while in the previous condition where we had done it using large values of angles, I am just showing it to you in this manner. See here, I will take theta 1 to be forward down by 90 degree, theta 2 be horizontally anti-clockwise by 90 degree. See, this is the first operation, which is theta 1, 90 degree, just tilt it this way. See, initial position was this, now it has been tilted by 90 degree. Then, after performing the second angle, theta 2, which is 90 degree this way, so this becomes the final result. Again, I am performing it. Just see, this is the actual position. Now it has been given 90 degree this way and then 90 degree this way. We got result. See, 90 degree this way, then 90 degree this way. This is our result of the operations theta 1 plus theta 2. Now come theta 2 first. So theta 2 gives me result like this. See, theta 2 this way, it becomes like this, and then theta 1, which is 90 degree this way. So here result comes. So here result comes this way. See again, this is theta 1, sorry, this is theta 2, and then this is theta 1. The result comes in this way. You can easily see that result in that condition was something like this, and result here is something like this, which are not same. So thank you. We will be back soon with some more interesting and intellectual parameters to be used in uniform circular motion. Till then, happy learning.